Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am here today with another beautiful soul, Allison Klassen, and she's a good friend of mine, and we've been journeying together for a while now, I guess. And she also has her bachelor's of arts in sociology and psychology, and she is here to process with us what freedom with chronic illness looks like and could look like. But before we get to the freedom part, we have to talk about the super non-fun parts. So, Allison,
Mhm.
could you share with us a bit about your journey with chronic illness and when it began?
Yeah, so I've struggled with chronic illness for, I guess, most of my life now. Started when I was about 13, and then I think more recently in my adult life, I think I've come to understand, I guess, some of the mental concerns that came about, starting with chronic pain and kind of understood how that works and how to cope with it. So, and that's kind of became my area of interest and passion. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love how, I mean, it's incredible that you would take something that you daily survive and work through and be like, okay, I'm going to look into that and dig into that and learn more about it so I can help others.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
exactly. Yeah.
So, what brought you to that place? Because obviously, you didn't wake up with chronic pain at 13 and think, I'm going to use this to serve other people. So, that's a bit about that journey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it definitely, takes a lot of years of kind of acceptance and years of God kind of shaping your interests and your passions to want to help other people. And I think chronic pain is, or at least for me, it's a huge identity issue because um, it takes away parts of yourself in the way that you would function before. And so you have to find new ways to look at yourself because you don't look the same, you don't do things the same. And so, yeah, different stages of my life have kind of allowed me to see myself in different lights and see different capacities that I have. And it's all through the light of chronic pain. I don't know if I would have seen them in the same way without that pain. So yeah, it's a long process, and I think it's never ending too, of course. Um, and I'm not so much fixated on a cure for myself or others. Actually, it's more so finding meaning through the pain.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful, right? When you can get to the place where let go of that expectation or desire for, I mean, obviously you still would like to be healed, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's not your main focus, then you can use that energy productively somewhere else. So good.
Hmm.
What you said
Yeah.
about how it affects your identity, I that spoke to me because I know when I was had chronic fatigue, um, different people would be like, yeah, well, you just like, this isn't even who you are. And it would always make me super angry because I would always be like,
Hmm.
actually, this is where I am right now. And therefore accept this part of me because I can't not have fatigue. So have you bumped into that at all
Yes.
in your life where people kind of thought you were supposed to be a certain way, or they threw their grief on you or anything like that? Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I always found it was more powerful when people said that it was a part of me, and that could kind of lead me to more acceptance. But then, as I kind of grappled with that, I could, once you have that place of acceptance, you can kind of um, externalize too in a way and know that like this issue isn't just something that I struggle with. It's something that other people struggle with, and it's in the fact that there isn't a diagnosis for everyone, and it's in the fact that we have a complex mental health system. It's not, it doesn't end, inside of me, even though it is a part of me. There's other factors that complicate my experience. And so it's not, solely on me to heal myself or help myself.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Good. So, do you like recall a choice point in your journey where you were like, okay, so I need to just accept this as part of my identity, or can you explain that at all to us? Or did you just wake up one morning and be like, all right, this
Yeah.
is just this thing?
Yeah. Well, I think throughout high school when I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do in my life and decided to go to university. I think that was a big turning point for me because I could see that, I wasn't the only one that struggled with these issues. And because I had to make all of these changes at a young age, they had such huge value to me as far as like dealing with stress in school and helping other people with other issues that they had. And then just knowing that I could have meaningful relationships with an honesty of where I was at as far as pain and, relationships that kind of just, were completely honest about what each other were going through. I think that was really empowering and freeing for me to see, because I think growing up, I felt like people, just had to be my friend because they were my friend and they were, supporting me because of what I was going through. Whereas these relationships really started in that place of this is who I am, take me or leave me. And that was a big breakthrough for me.
Wow. And was that in high school
Yeah.
or when you were in university?
Yeah, definitely when I moved to university is when, a lot of things shifted for me as far as relationships and knowing that I could find energy and power in helping others and forming new relationships, and that I didn't need to be in so many like uh, dependent relationships. Like I felt like I was always the one draining others,
Mm.
and I always wanted to switch roles, but of course, when I went to university, I could actually transition into that. So
Yeah, so true. And I mean, university is a new, yeah, like you said, like a fresh start in so many ways. And I think sometimes when people, like you said, are journeying with you, then there can be that sense of like, okay, you can't do that. I know I've experienced that. People, oh no, you better not do that. You better not do that. And it's like, can you not? Because I am already monitoring this very closely. So I know what I can do. So
yes, exactly.
and then to
Yeah.
be able to acknowledge that you gain power and even like energy from being
Hmm.
able to help other people, that is like obviously an awesome strategy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, recently I've heard your breaking point is your breakthrough point. What do you think about that statement, and would you say that that was accurate in your life or not really?
Yeah, I think um, for me, my breaking points always came when, I didn't get the answers that I wanted, or I didn't get diagnosis, or if I did get a diagnosis, there was no cure for that. There was always more work to be done. So, those were always my breaking points. But I think, once I could process that, it was, there is so much power in a lifestyle change, even though that's not what you want to hear at all at the beginning of your journey. You want answers and easy fixes. And like I said earlier, I kind of, after a long time, kind of came to the terms that there wasn't going to be a cure, and what I experienced as a child is going to affect my mental health and my mental state for the rest of my adulthood. But that was okay, because it kind of connected me to my purpose and my power and what I wanted to do with my life. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Wow.
so it was, I guess, a breakthrough in a sense, even though it doesn't come at the exact same time as a breaking point. It
That's true.
takes some
Isn't that the
time.
thing? It's not like, oh, breakthrough, breaking point, let's go. No, there's this the valley point of
Yes,
figuring out.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, as you can um, accept even that there isn't a cure for your condition, that there is that sense of like, okay, but I know what my purpose is, therefore you can
Hmm.
continue. I know in my own story, I would cycle and be like, okay, I'm just gonna live and whatever, we'll just roll with the punches. And then eventually I'd be
Hmm.
like, I don't even care, just take me back in. Maybe someone will know something now. And I would
Yeah.
ride the Ferris wheel. But I think that's probably part of grief and part of the journey of getting to your breakthrough.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
have you discovered any strategies that have helped you in your journey? And if so, could you share some with us that help you cope with the pain in the everyday?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the biggest one starting out is like connecting with support groups and stuff, because I was fortunate enough to go to like a pain 101 course and meet like other teens my age who are struggling with that. And so I think um, there is more and more groups for, specific to what issues you're struggling with. I think tapping into your interests and passions. So for me, it's writing and reading and being creative. All those things are really helpful to help me cope and find meaning in what I'm going through. And asking for help, relying on other people and knowing that that's okay, and taking my medication on time, which I'm very bad at. My husband is trying to like give me positive reinforcements, like I can have a snack if I remember to take my medication, because I'm just really so bad at remembering to take it, and sometimes tell myself I don't need to take it, but it's not true. So it's a lie. And yeah, it's important for me to take it. So
Yeah, totally.
mm-hmm.
Good for you. Yeah, it's nice once that toolbox is you start having tools to put in it, then it's a game changer, right? Because when you
Mm-hmm.
get into that slump, then it's like, okay, wait a minute, what are my things that work or kind of help a little bit? And then the person can go back to, oh yeah, I haven't actually done any art lately or whatever, and take a step back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Still just blows my
Mm,
mind that you have journeyed with this since you were 13 and now you're in your 20s, right?
I
So
know.
it's like
Yeah, it's
it's amazing. It's just incredible though, like to see, I don't know, just a transformation in you, because obviously we've journeyed for a while together, and I'm just
mhm.
you're just so inspirational, and you guys need to read her poetry, because seriously, it's like wow.
Aw.
I said
Thank
you just
you.
posted on Instagram your rise poem today. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I love this so much, and so thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm trying to make poetry more, I guess, accessible and practical. Like obviously I'll still post my, deep whatever poems I've been writing, but yeah, I want to make it practical in a sense. I felt very much like you and all your scheduling tools and helping people plan their days.
Yeah,
And yeah, seeing it as a guide and not necessarily another to-do list or a scheduling tool. It's just a way to like anchor myself in what I need from my day. So
I love that. I will definitely be
yeah.
like, hey, can you help me with this module or two on self-care? Because seriously, I think that is,
Yeah.
I know as a person who struggles with chronic illness, and even just a person, period, there is
Hmm.
such a disconnect between what I want to do and what I can do. And when everybody has limits, right? So if we can
Yeah,
have
exactly.
more, instead of less of a to-do list and more of a rise up list that's like, hey, have you done these things? These are going to help you
Yeah.
where you want to go. Then it's like, oh, that's actually inviting versus the make it happen. So
Yeah, exactly. I don't even use check marks anymore, because I know that yeah, that can sometimes be hard, knowing if I didn't get to check it off at the end of the day. But with this, I know I can write at least one thing for each letter, and it will, even if it's really small, like for the eating one is to feed myself with taking my medication, or, eating supper, something as
yep, yep.
simple as that we take for granted. So,
Do you mind just
yeah.
going through it with us right now?
Oh yeah, sure. So I picked a word that's meaningful to me, and then I made it into like an acrostic poem. So for the letter R, it's regulate yourself, or I guess you could also say routine. So something you need to do every day to make yourself feel okay. And then I is I time, me time, something that you do just for you. It has no relationship to something that you have to do for others, or that you have to do to for your responsibilities, whatever you have on your plate. And then S is for social. Even though we're in a time of social distancing, I guess the word that I prefer is connect. So yeah, making sure that you do something to connect with others in your day. And then eating is, yeah, making sure you eat, making sure you read, nourish your mind, body, soul
Mm,
in whatever practical way, you know, however that looks for you on any given day. So
I love
yeah.
that. I love that. And it is so, yeah, it just makes sense. It's so it's simple. It sounds like, oh, it's so simple, but it's like, no, when you're suffering with brain fog or any kind of chronic illness, or even just tired, like me this morning, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what actually matters? And it just kind of narrows it down to like, you know what, these are things that matter. Just do something,
Hmm.
get peace. So thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Well, I'm glad you like it. It's
I so do.
nice to
Anyway,
hear from you.
well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it really resonated with me. There was it's just what was this? What was the S one? Oh, when you're talking about socializing or connecting, I
Hmm.
remember when my body would shut down, and
Hmm.
on a day when I would like wake up and be like, I think I have energy today, and then I'd get out of bed and be like, dang it, like I don't, and so I'd go to bed, back to
Right.
bed for hours, and I'd end up having only these dumb little frustrating 15-minute increments. But when I
Hmm.
would accept that, then I remember like writing our compassion kiddo and just being like, oh, that, oh, I like it was that power and energy and joy of being able to love on someone else and kind of forget where I was at in that moment. And it was so empowering. And it was just one
Hmm.
of those tools that I put in my toolbox. Like, actually, even on your worst day, you can still do something for someone else and it
Hmm.
will bless you too. So,
Yeah, and it's been weird to see there's almost more like grace in what you consider social because we're social distancing. So
mm,
before I would think that like sending uh, a Snapchat or something seemed like really superficial or shallow. Now it just means like the absolute world to me if I can send, one small piece of my day to someone and for them to respond. Yeah, it's just there's less judgment right now, I feel like, with
mm,
that. So it's cool to see us collectively going through that transition.
yeah. And that's the unique part about
Mhm.
the season two, hey, is that everybody has to deal with it at the same time. It's like, okay, let's
Yes,
grow
right?
together.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes.
So, do
Yeah.
you, I didn't have this question down, so if you don't have an answer, that's fine, but you will.
Okay.
As so as you've been journeying, obviously, like you said, you're continuing to grow and in acceptance and helping others. And can you tell me if you have experienced what types of freedom have come to you in this process?
Mm,
Feel like,
yeah. Well, I think the example I was going to use is because I was forced into slowing down and stillness and quiet at a young age. I think as we go into this new season, it's not comfortable, but it's familiar. And so, because it's familiar, I feel like I'm just at a different stage of being able to process it, and yeah, I'm like ready to help people at this stage because I've, yeah, been through it before, and I know there is, so much beauty that you can find in the simple things and in slowing down. But now I just have to work through the guilt associated with that because it's like, oh, you have your degree now, you have this going on, you need to be doing more all the time, and even though you lost your job, you need to find another job, and
right.
um, be more on top of things. But yeah, when I do, yeah, realize that I'm in a different place because what I've been through, it's very freeing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
can see that in you, even in your posts and even your TikToks that you're doing. They show freedom, and you can see that
Yeah.
that other people are grappling with how do I cope during this time. And yeah, if you've been
Yeah.
already forced into stillness or slowed downness at seasons of your life for sure, then it's just like,
Yeah.
actually, I kind of know how to roll this. So that's
Yeah. It's
that's
really weird. I've like been more in touch with my like silly side and humorous side, and yeah, it's been
interesting.
freeing, like you say. It's the
Yeah.
perfect word to use. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's always a gift when you recognize that you have learned something in the process, right? Because it's not an easy journey by any stretch. And
Mhm.
to actually be able to say, "Hey, I think there's like a diamond sitting down there for me to pick up." That's awesome.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that people are
So,
ripe in this season for encouragement and for blessing and the things that you're so great at offering. Um, it's like, oh man, yeah, you want Allison as your friend. I'm telling you now, she's
aw.
such a gift. So,
Aw, thanks.
if you had was right. What would you like to say to someone who's waiting for diagnosis?
Ooh, yeah. That's a tricky one. I I
What?
did a lot of um, research in school about self-diagnosis, and how because there's so much pressure to put labels on what we're experiencing, especially for, I guess I'm speaking more about mental illness rather than physical illness. Just to know that sometimes these labels change throughout history, and they're sometimes very random and arbitrary, and they change based on what's going on in research. So just to know that, a label isn't going to tell you it's okay to struggle now, right? A label can clarify some symptoms for you, but it's a category. It's a way for medical professions to kind of categorize and understand things. It's not going to reflect exactly what you're feeling. And so, and even when you do get that diagnosis, sometimes there's like a whole nother wave of grief because um, there's no treatment or cure attached to that, right? So, yeah, I have very complicated feelings about it because I think for some people it can give them a lot of clarity, but um, I'm not the type of person that needs to know exactly biologically what's going on in my body. I want to learn how to cope and find freedom beyond that. So that's kind of my take on it. But I know it's so different with a physical illness versus mental illness, or one that's a little bit of both. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's not like it's wrong to want to know what they would,
yeah,
how they would categorize you, but there
yeah.
is just to be able to recognize that it's not going to solve your everyday, right? Like that there is that need for learning the coping part of
Hmm.
journeying with the thing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of the way our society is set up, that everyone has to have some sort of label or some way for us to understand them. Um, but that can't be done. You can't be understood. Like, you're very unique. And even if you do have that diagnosis, especially with, yeah, mental illness, you want to be a person beyond that. You don't want to be defined by that label. So,
Definitely. And I
mhm,
know, well, and I think it's also that I know for like I never looked well right after I'd had a fatigue attack, I looked like I had a stroke. So that's when I would look sick. But in the
mhm,
rest of life, people wouldn't, if I was having a good day and I actually got to the grocery store, they didn't know that I was clutching onto my shopping cart for dear life because I knew my energy was dropping out of the bottom and I was like, no, I will not pass out. I will get it done. So people couldn't see that in me. So I
mhm,
think that sometimes because there's such a it's so up and down, or it can be, that there's a
mhm.
comfort. Like I know I really wrestled with like maybe I'm just crazy and I'm like just bringing this on
Yeah,
myself versus that if I've had a diagnosis, then at least I could say this is what I have. And so
exactly. Yeah,
I think that that's maybe part of what drives us to want to have a label, to so that we can be a part of a group as opposed to the doctor who'd call me the mystery lady. I'm like, well, is there like a mystery group for people who the doctor says fine but they can't walk sometimes? Like it's hard
yeah.
to, where's that Facebook group? But
Right. Yeah, the one thing I heard was that labels like legitimize our suffering to others. So it's like, this is legit, this is real, this is, something that I'm going through. Whereas when you're in that stage of having no diagnosis, I think you even start to doubt yourself.
100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, that's interesting.
mm,
I remember when I actually ended up having to go to Mexico before I was like that in Mexico, a doctor diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome,
mhm,
and I just cried because it was just like it was just a piece of the puzzle that wasn't there, and it's not like he was like, and now we can fix you, because he couldn't, but he could help me, but he couldn't fix
mhm,
me. And it was just that validation that okay, so for this last, and I wasn't till probably year 12ish that happened, but it was just like, oh, okay. And he's like, of course you got depressed. He's like, you're in the prime of life and you can't do what you want to do. That would depress anyone. I'm like, okay, thank
yeah,
you so much. But it was very, yeah,
exactly.
heartwarming, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Do you
it's
have
very
anything you'd like
complicated
to
for
say?
sure.
Oh, yeah. And everybody's story is different, right? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, there's so many different layers and levels of things happening within yourself and then with the people that you live with and all that too.
Mhm.
Do you have anything you'd like to say for those who are weary from the daily battle of chronic illness?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I mean, it sounds really cliche, but I think it does get better as you journey through it. Not that you necessarily get used to living in pain or get used to having your body fail you, but I think God can give you gifts to shift your focus, or at least that's what kind of happened for me. If I could kind of look beyond what was happening in my body, and that was almost like in itself its own healing, right? It may not be a cure, but it, like being able to look beyond what my physical body is telling me or feeling has been healing for me. So yeah, and like I said, I can't constantly be looking for a cure. And so yeah, if anything, I'm trying to like get myself off of medication one day. And um yeah, so I think it does get better once we're able to receive that gift of being able to shift our focus. So
Which totally leads into
yeah.
the next question of what are gifts that you've received during the season of life. And so one of the gifts would be
Hmm.
the ability to shift your focus, and anything else
Yeah.
to mind as a gift.
Yeah, I think like I said earlier, with being comfortable with stillness and waiting and having, an isolation period be, in a sense, rejuvenating and kind of comforting in that everyone's going through it, even though it's so different for everyone. Where our whole lives have been changed and kind of shifted without our consent. So, yeah, that's been a gift for me for sure. And yeah, I think just different um, people that have come into my life and helped me have given me different, uh, I guess, strategies and ways to help others. And it always, for me, I think comes down to being able to listen and accepting people where they are. And I, I think I've learned to, or I've grown kind of my confidence in being able to challenge stigma, challenge things that um, make it harder for people, I guess, to live our daily lives, or yeah, people that are stigmatized. I think that's a gift too, is to feel like I'm comfortable enough to not only share what I'm going through, but kind of challenge some of the stigma that people face. So
Mm,
yeah.
huge. That's, yeah. So she's a warrior, people. That's what she's saying. It's true, because
Aw.
you do. I've in other conversations, you do like, yeah, that's how people view us, but it doesn't mean that. And it's like, oh yeah, thanks for verbalizing that, because it totally validates and it empowers those that you work with. And I love that as you collect your strategies, you release them to others, right? And you use those connections you
Yeah.
have to help others work through what they're going through, whether it's chronic illness or mental health or whatever.
Yeah.
Could be loss of job or whatever, that they're transferable to other areas, and that's powerful too.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm out of questions, but wow, do you have anything else you'd like to say that you didn't
Yeah.
get a chance
I don't think so. I feel like we covered everything, and good timing. I know that interviews can just talk for hours and hours,
to? Right?
but
You want like not
yeah.
short. Do you happen to remember you had that poem published? I remember back in high school. And do you know what? Like, can people find that somewhere, or have you had other
Yes.
poems that have been published that we could
Oh.
check out? Or you can send the info.
Uh yeah, maybe I'll send the info to you. Yeah, it's kind of been like I had a blog or something in high school, but then that kind of got lost. So then I just started my own kind of page just now. So we'll see where that takes me. But yeah,
Well, I am
I
sure
can
that people listening are going to be
track it
like,
down.
that lady with that page who did that poem, I need to talk to her. So
Aw.
love you for that info so I can make sure they can find you. 'Cause-
Awesome.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Allison. I really appreciate you coming and being here
Yeah.
with
Thanks
me.
for having me and thinking of me.
You bet.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And I just want to remind you that later on this month, we're going to have, I'm going to do Freedom to Grieve. Oh, not grieve. That's last month. Freedom and Chronic Illness workshop. And I'm just going to share part of my story and 3 different principles I've learned along the way. And it is a workshop format. So that means there is some teaching, and then I have some questions for you to kind of work through. So you're kind of paying me $20 to actually sit down and process through some stuff. Because you know how sometimes you say you want to do this, you need to do this, and then you don't. It's kind of like showing up at the gym and the workout person's like, okay, we're doing 3 sets of this, and people come away with an action plan or just a realization of what tools they have, and then how they can apply them to their situation. So people have found it beneficial. So I hope that you're want to be a part of that, and also that there is a link up above that will show you that if you put your email address in there, then I can send you all of the freedom and chronic illness interviews, because you're not going to want to miss out on them, and you'll have them for future reference. So all right, thanks again, Allison,
Awesome.
and
Thank you.
betcha everyone have a great day.